everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't wanna fall, but I don't have to grow. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Yep. Well, Dave.
Hey.
Are
we on?
Yes, we are.
Barely hear myself. Okay.
Really?
Yep.
Well, you're way. Oh, you know what? It's probably. Did you change headphones?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably the problem.
I'm on one.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But does that help?
Yes. See, that's number one. Yep, that's it.
Okay, good.
Hey, I'm alive.
He likes to hear himself. I have to confess, I like to hear myself too. We have our guests in here, and sometimes we don't give them headphones.
Yeah.
But once you get used to hearing yourself, you almost have to hear yourself. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's that security blanket.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I exist.
You surround
I'm
yourself.
relevant.
Yes, I am, because I hear.
And it is Texas Tech Colors Day.
Yes, it is.
But
guns up.
Underneath it all, these are my superpowers.
Lightning engineer. That's
lighting.
Right. Oh, lighting. Yeah.
Yes, it's
lighting engineer.
When we finish the show, I got 3 jobs to get done today if the weather holds out.
Hey, by the way, I have to say something, and this is it's going to be offensive, but it's not meant to be an offense. It's just to clarify some things.
It's typical Eddie.
Yes, typical. Non-offensive offense. Yeah, I had to clarify for my wife, and I hate to do this to OSU people, but I just have to for the sake of.
Here it comes.
Yes. You have stolen several of our things. Okay, this, for example,
pistols firing.
It is not pistols firing. It's guns up. Okay, we came up with this. Okay, that's one. Okay.
It never existed until Texas Tech.
The other thing is, and actually I don't know if this is an Oklahoma State thing, but the thing of the Raider power, one side of the stadium.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's OU or OSU that stole that one, where they say, though, I guess it's Boomer Sooner.
Yeah.
Where it's Raider power. That's another Texas Tech thing. The horse and rider. Okay. That's a Texas Tech thing. Oh, by the way, in fact, it's not just you guys, others. You know the Seminole, the Indian riding out on the horse, and he plants that spear into the middle of the field at the beginning of the Florida State games. Stole that from Texas Tech.
Oh.
Yeah. We're innovators. We have a sorry football team, but the peripherals are good. Seriously, I looked all these things up. I didn't even realize, because my wife and I got into this argument about the pistols firing and the guns up, which I knew was started by Tech when I was there, in the Raider power, and there were a couple other things. But anyway. And as I was looking through, it listed all the things that other schools had stolen from, that Tech had come up with. But what happened, Tech played Florida State back in the 60s or somewhere. And the Florida State people were so impressed with our rider, the Red Raider as he comes charging out with the,
like the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. And so Florida State liked it. And that's when they came up with their native riding out with the spear which I have to say, though, if you're going to steal something, do it right. And Florida State has done it right.
Good.
In fact, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I love it. I love when he riding that horse, raises up and he does this and he comes down and plants that spear. I got goosebumps again.
It's drama.
It is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I have to say it's cooler than ours. So that's why I'm saying, if you're going to steal it, do it better.
Yeah.
And that is a cool thing.
Now, my favorite planting the flag thing was Baker Mayfield at Ohio State.
Well, not really, because he's trying to plant it in AstroTurf.
I know, but and
it didn't even have a point on it. I mean, come on.
You're getting it's the intent. It is the insult of, we own you. We just beat you.
You were the number one team in the nation. We came to your house, first game of the year, and spanked you.
It was
and we stole Baker Mayfield from Texas Tech.
Yeah. But show some class.
I know.
Instead of yours.
He did apologize because it was over the edge. I mean, it was like, okay.
Honestly, that's the only thing I don't like about Baker Mayfield. It just, he has no class.
Okay.
The crotch grabbing, that.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, and then later on, and his dad and them going after Cliff Kingsbury. We talked about this, I think, last week or before, that they're still attacking Cliff Kingsbury after he's in the NFL.
Yeah.
Baker wouldn't even be in the NFL if it weren't for Cliff Kingsbury. I'm sure of that. I think we've talked about it. Baker Mayfield had the only team that had recruited him basically was Oregon State. Mm-hmm. So think of where he would be without it. So Kingsbury gave him the opportunity to come as a preferred walk-on, which is basically you don't, because normally the way the rules are, walk-on rules now, you don't get to come out until the spring of your freshman year. Then you come on to the team. Mm-hmm. The preferred walk-ons get to come on in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay. So he came on, ended up starting. Mm-hmm. He got injured. And then came back late in the season, okay? Well, then Tech has this tradition. They give the scholarship when you come back. They have a meeting, and then they announce so-and-so.
In the spring semester.
In the spring semester,
yeah.
They announce the first week before it starts, we're giving scholarships now to so-and-so.
Yeah. Well,
that wasn't good enough for Baker and his dad or whoever. So he decides, no, I'm leaving. I'm going to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And he blames it on the fact that he didn't get a scholarship after he won Big 12 Freshman of the Year. And he said, oh, I should have gotten it. Nobody in the history of the school has ever gotten a scholarship before.
Yeah, it looked like a hissy fit. I agree.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just, but in bottom line, what it was, his dad is an OU alum.
Okay.
So his dad always wanted him to go to OU, and he just used this as an excuse for Baker to go to OU. Mm-hmm. And if it hadn't been for the fact that Cliff got him to Tech, started him, trained him, and basically gave him the venue to showcase his talent, he probably would never, ever have been able to be what he was at OU.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they wouldn't have picked him up from Oregon State.
Right.
Back then, they had the sorriest teams in the world. And from there to be, what was he, number 1 or 2 draft choice of Cleveland?
He was number 1 in the NFL.
Right. Okay. So all of that, and then he still feels, he and his dad, that they have to go after Cliff Kingsbury? Are you kidding me? I mean, it just shows me.
You know what? Sometimes that just shows me you're a little insecure about your behavior. And so you got to double down on trashing the other guy to cover up for what you're not proud of.
I guess that may be it. But it just, to me, it just, there's no need for it. And Cliff never said one negative word about them or anything, and to me, it just brings down everything. And so, and also after all of that, then, and then it kind of got me that, OU then gets upset because, what's his name? Riley, Lincoln, and the QB go to California, and they throw a fit because they go out there and everybody's still upset because they left, even though Kyler Murray comes in right behind Baker, does the same thing.
Oh, yeah. It's childish.
Yeah, come on. I mean, it's okay for you to steal from other teams, but it's not okay from other teams to steal from you. Come on, at some point, what's fair for one has got to be fair for all.
Oh, and I'll just tack on to that to make your point. There was a group of Packer backers that would have a
Packer
tailgate party every Sunday morning at the Marriott 71st and Lewis. Well, Brett Favre was having great years there about 20 years ago, and then they kicked him off the team. That's flat out what happened.
Kicked Brett Favre off.
Yeah, he was like, well, I don't know, and finally, no, we're not going to wait for you to decide whether you're playing another year. We're going with Aaron Rodgers. And
Right.
so all of a sudden he doesn't have a team. Well, the Jets picked him up a year, and then the Vikings did. And what do you know? He and the Vikings cleaned house. And every Packer backer I knew was mad at Brett Favre.
Yeah.
And I said, you kicked him off the team. What do you expect? Well, still, we're just mad that he went to the Vikings. You fired him. He needed a job.
I know.
And
I
that's
know.
just how childish they act.
Yeah, exactly. And and it's so funny because when Baker first left, okay, I was excited for him at OU because there was a doctor friend of mine, a big OU fan, and when he went to OU, I told him, I said, "Oh, you got a great one." I mean, I was all behind him. I said, "Great,"
Right.
they didn't give him the scholarship and and so I was all supportive of him, and I said, "You watch him; he's going to be good." And he said, "Oh, really? You think so?" And yeah, you watch, and sure enough, the spring came, and the next thing, and then at the spring game is where Baker really showed his stuff, and then the next season, and the rest is history, So I was very much a supporter, and I really supported the team and him doing that. But then when he started this stuff where he couldn't just show class and leave and thank Kingsbury and the school for providing the opportunity and getting him to that point and to where and in fact at the Heisman thing, he probably should have thanked Cliff Kingsbury in addition to Bob Stoops.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Lincoln had just taken over from Stoops the year he won the Heisman.
Right. Yeah. He should have thanked both of them.
Sure.
Or all three. Yeah. For getting him to where he was,
You think everybody
he should have
had
invited
a hand.
him there, but everybody that had a hand in it, exactly, he needed to thank. But instead, what does he do? He trashes the genesis of it all, and that just, I'm just saying that's not the way to do it. But, so you take, what's his name, for example, at USC right now.
Williams.
Williams, okay. He never says a word about OU.
That's true.
Nothing. Lincoln, they don't need to.
Well,
this is where we are.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts would be a great example because he got benched for Tua, and he comes to OU. You didn't hear him trashing Alabama.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah, that's a perfect example right there. And so, but that's just the class act.
Yeah.
That shows how you do it. In fact, I don't know how many people watch ESPN's Game Day every Saturday morning before all the games. And well, there was an All-American linebacker out of Georgia, Dave Pollock. And David Pollock was one of their main guys for about 10 or 11 years. And he got fired last year. And Dave is a very, very strong Christian guy. And I have a feeling that may be one of the reasons he got fired. I don't know. But anyway, he was very hurt. But as a Christian, he just said, though he was hurt, he had to look at it as positive that, as somebody says, what's the old saying you've heard, I'm sure, it's very prominent in the faith community that when God shuts one door, he opens another one.
A window. Sometimes it's when God shuts a door, he opens a window.
Right. I've always heard if he shuts one door, he opens another one.
Yeah,
but it's the same principle, basically.
It is.
And so David had to look at it in that way.
Yeah, it's change.
Right. And now, he's a public speaker.
Yeah.
He's coaching his son's high school team and things like that. And who knows what doors in the future will open to this guy, But we know that he loves the Lord. He's a real straight, strong Christian guy. And he doesn't have to muzzle anything anymore.
There you go.
All of that. So, and I'm a firm believer that when you do honor and praise God in that way, God does honor it.
Yeah.
He does. You may not see it today, tomorrow, but the day will come when God honors it. It's just one of those principles.
Yeah.
I've seen it in my life many times. It's been hard. It's been hard. I've been peed on a few times in my life, and it's been hard, and yet, when I begrudgingly, I haven't always taken it well.
Sure.
But I have. In fact, do you know Don Francisco?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's alive.
He writes ballads, Christian ballads.
Right. Christian artist. And
great songwriter.
I did a little tour it was just me and him. We traveled together, and I did set up everything, and I ran sound, and we stay in the hotels together, eat together, and got to know him real well. And he knew I was going through some real crazy, and I wanted to sue this guy. This guy burned me, and I wanted to sue this guy. And I remember when even at dinner he says, "Eddie, you got to let it go, man." And I was saying, "Don, I don't want to let it go."
Exactly.
I don't want to let it go. This is, this guy messed me over. He said, "Yeah, but you can't win."
Yeah.
You won't win.
Yeah, I often say, don't let them live rent-free in your head. You owe forgiveness as a Christian. Now, trust is a separate issue, and that's where people have a stumbling block. They think if they forgive them, they have to trust them again. They don't want to trust them. You shouldn't trust them.
Right.
Trust is earned.
Yeah.
But
that it really got to me, and so I listened to Don. And I let it go. And it's interesting. Once I let it go, everything turned out okay. And I moved on.
Yeah.
And God blessed me again. He said, "God will bless you." Oh, and then there's this other, I have to tell this one more story. I can't reveal the names, or I won't reveal the names or anything. But it was a Christian group, a band. And one of the people in the band, I won't say the position or anything. But anyway, this person in the band got replaced by one of the people in the band who owned the band, basically. And so we were on a plane. I think we were flying to Sweden or somewhere. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were on a plane, not a train. I can't remember. Anyway, and we're sitting there, and I was hearing the story about how he got shafted out of the group. And and I remember saying, "Oh, that's all right. God will get him."
Yeah.
And his response was this. Now listen to this. This is pretty amazing. He said, "You know what, Eddie?" He said, "That's just it. I don't think he will." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, if God has to forgive me for everything I've done in my life, God has to forgive him too. And darn it, he gets away with it again."
Oh!
And I'm sitting there going,
See,
that's true. I mean, not necessarily with that attitude about it, that he gets away with it, they get away with it again. But it is true that, let's say, you do something to me, you burn me, or you betray me, whatever you do, and I'm hurt, and I have to forgive you. I forgive you. But somewhere deep down, I'm relying on the fact that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Yeah.
But if I'm a true believer and truly wanting to walk in the Lord, I also have to ask God to forgive you and trust that God will forgive you for what you have done to me.
Right.
Whew.
Well,
That's the ultimate step. So think about that in your personal life, because there are times, I mean, I know just being human in my own life that I have forgiven people with the little bit of thought in the back of my head that God's going to get them.
Well, yeah, let me respond to what you said, sir, because you said a lot here. And I just would simply go to the story of David and Bathsheba, because it led to David. His corruption just got worse and worse, and he had Bathsheba's husband murdered, set up a battle situation to where he told the army commander, abandon him,
right,
so that he dies.
Set him out and back away. Right.
Now, did God forgive David? Yes, we read in Scripture he did. Did David suffer as a result? Yes. The child Bathsheba had with David died. Because there's a principle. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. That is a spiritual principle.
Right.
And in the natural, there will be, you reap what you sow.
Right. But you see, Bathsheba's husband, can't remember his name right now. Anyway, he didn't get an opportunity to forgive or say, God, get David.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to that, Eddie, is it really doesn't involve us how God deals with them. We don't have to pray God punish them. We don't have to pray God forgive them.
No, it's not. No, that's not. But see, it's not how we pray or how we. It's our attitude. So for what I'm saying is, I've had it in my mind that somewhere back that I trust that God's going to get you.
Well, that God will do what you want God to do.
You're gonna get yours. I'm gonna let it go. I give it up, but God's gonna get you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of a double-mindedness.
Well, it's okay. Now, who's God here?
Am I really forgiving?
Yeah,
I'm gonna let it go, but God's gonna get you.
You're playing God when you start trying to tell God, because what does the Scripture say? Vengeance is mine, says the Lord.
Right.
You say, God, I leave it to your judgment how to deal with him.
Right.
And if you can do that, you can make it.
That's the attitude right there. I leave it to you on how you're going to deal with him. Mm-hmm. I forgive him. I let it go. Mm-hmm. And now, boy, we're not even getting to the news. This is one of the spiritual ones now. Yeah. Okay, so
we're talking to you, Mayfield.
Baker, Cliff. No, this is the thing about forgiveness.
Yeah.
Okay. I have found in my life with forgiveness, it's not about forgiveness. It's about forgetfulness. Like I know people who will forgive, but they don't forget.
Right.
I personally am the type of person that forgets, and in the forgetting is the forgiveness. So, which I thank God that I forget.
However God helps you, that's great.
Yeah, because to me, it would be hard to forgive if I can't forget. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I mean, does that make sense, everybody? Mm-hmm. So, and it talks about what the sea of forgetfulness, is that actually in the Scripture? Is that something somebody made up? I think
it's actually in there. I believe it's a psalm.
Okay. I think I tried to find it one day.
Yeah,
I think he removes our sin as far as the east is from the west, but the sea of forgetfulness is something I think somebody made up.
Good point.
Anyway, but nevertheless, I think it is something that God does not remember our sins. He does truly let them go. They're gone through the blood, and they're washed away. But we tend to hold on to them. But for some reason, I am able to forget them because I know people that have done things in the past, and I truly am. And I see them years later, and I don't even remember why I was mad or what happened. Or for example, a great example, my wife and I, we can have a knockdown drag out one day, and I wake up the next morning, and I don't even remember what it was about.
Yeah.
We just go on, and I think, oh man, thank you, Lord, because that's in a way, it's such a blessing to not have to wake up and still there. Oh, there she is again. But she did this to me, or I did everybody. To wake up still mad about something, and it always ends up in the end being something dumb. She didn't close this door, or she didn't, or she accused me of this, or she, whatever it is, to be able to have that ability to forget, and the forgiveness is in. It's like when you forget, it's like you wrap something in this. It truly is. You throw it into this thing, an incinerator. Let's use it, or like a magician say,
"Yeah,
it's gone," and you're free. You don't have to worry about it. I can talk to you again. It's like if you do something. We do something to each other, and then we see each other next time. I don't ever remember anything that you may have done that I may have been offended by.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there has been something.
Yeah,
but that I think is how God really wants us to be, rather than, oh, I forgive you, Dave. And in my mind, just don't you ever do that again.
Well, yeah, but
I'm just waiting for you to do it again.
But see, when you say, don't you ever do that, that is, I want to trust you again. Because remember, trust is separate from forgiveness. It's also, not only do I forgive you, I want to get back to that place where I can trust you again. Yeah,
but you can't, even there, you can't worry about it. The trust is something that's on our part.
Yes.
And I don't, in other words, if you truly forgive, then the trust should be there.
I'm sorry, there are people I don't trust, nor should I. In fact, Scripture tells us within the church, there's certain people that are not ready to be trusted in certain areas of leadership.
Chapter and verse.
Do not promote a novice lest he be filled up in pride.
Right, but that's not trust based on any action. That's trust on somebody not having ever proven themselves able to pull something.
Trust is earned. That's my point. Trust is earned.
Right. Don't you love these little discussions? Yeah. See, we argue these points out here so you don't have to do it at home.
That's right.
No, seriously. I mean, we chase these rabbits because there's no way we plan to talk about this. I don't even know how Baker Mayfield. Thank you, Baker.
And listen, meanwhile, my wife's been telling Eddie, thank you for saying that to him. And Eddie's wife's telling me, thank you for saying that. Somebody's got to talk to us. Yeah. But, the other thing, it's you feel the pain when you're the victim more than the perpetrator. Yeah. And that's where we need to pray, God, don't let me have a hard heart. Let me have empathy so that I'm sensitive to realize when I hurt unintentionally.
Yeah.
So.
No, it has to be that way, and it's like that. I'm going to get to the, let's take it to a broader thing. Trust racially. We'll expand it.
Yeah.
As interpersonal to interracial. I've been hurt in racial situations. And but in the end, when you boil it down, it's still an individual. Those individuals have just been polluted by their upbringing, their environment, etc. Okay, and tragically, today the problem is more in the minority communities than it is in the white community. Let's say, because the white community has now been painted with this scarlet letter. Okay, the scarlet letter of instead of an S, scarlet S, it's the R. All right, and so black people look at every white person as a racist until you prove themselves, and in some cases, a white person can never prove themselves, and in many cases now, black people don't want them to prove themselves because they enjoy being able to hold that over them for their own benefit. So as long as I can convince you or your race in general that you're a bunch of racists, it works to my benefit because I can milk it for some special privileges.
Or just retain my condescension.
Yeah.
Just wanting to be condescending. I'm better than you.
I'm better than you, right? Because you're the racist, even though I'm the real racist now.
Right.
But I don't see it.
I mean, it happened in my town where, depending on what side of the tracks you lived on, what neighborhood you're from. You know, if you're from the rich part of town, you're better than the poor folk.
Yeah.
You know?
There you go. See, that's it. Something really came to me, and this is after I finished my book. I really, if you haven't read the book, or buy the book for a friend.
It's a launching pad to get you ready, prep you for this show, because he goes on and on.
But there's a show on PBS. It's actually a Hallmark show that came. It's called Poldark.
Oh,
Poldark, a British show.
Yeah.
And it shows what it was like around Revolutionary War times. This guy, he served in the British Army in America, but it was after the war he goes back home. And he comes from the noble class.
Okay.
But it shows this class division in Britain.
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh,
Still is.
Oh, yeah. They had the paupers prison, like the debtors jail. And if you owed people money, they could throw you in jail, and they could make it so that you couldn't pay them back, and it was bad.
Yep.
But it just showed that, and there was race had nothing to do with it.
No, it was economic class.
It was economic class, and the classism was as bad or worse than any racism.
Right.
They were killing people. Jailing people, just abusing people, raping women. I mean, anything they wanted to do, they could take your children. They could do what they wanted. The noble class, to the lower, and the main bad guy in the show was a guy named George.
Yeah, and you know it's funny. I was reading some British literature.
David, you gotta let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're still talking.
Okay. I'm still talking.
I thought you'd made your point there.
No.
Okay.
Anyway, I just gotta finish. So this guy George, he always talked about people needing to respect their betters.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that before. Yes, you need to learn how to respect and treat your betters.
Yes.
and so and they would in the court proceedings they talked about their betters. So if you weren't from that class, you weren't one of the betters. You were the worsers or something like that. So anyway, now I'm done.
Yeah, it's just the British literature I was reading this week. They referred to England as the cradle of civilization. And I thought, if that kind of class warfare and bigotry is civilization, I want savagery. I mean, because out in the wild, everybody's on the same footing.
Yeah. No, it's true. In fact, my wife and I just got through watching Vikings.
Yes.
The Netflix version, Valhalla, Vikings Valhalla. And it talked about, this is where they came down, and I didn't even realize that there was a Viking king that actually took over and was the King of England.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I can't remember what his name was.
They did have a Viking king.
Yeah,
yes.
he was the Viking king. He was the King of England. So it was crazy, and what was going on up there, where they were killing each other, and then it got into the Christian Vikings versus the pagan Vikings, and the Christians were killing the pagans, and the pagans were fighting the Christians, and I mean, there's so much stuff we don't know about, and it shows the dark side of Christianity.
Yeah.
How bad it was that they were just killing and burning and raping and pillaging, and it just like,
yeah. One of the best movies on that point was called Kingdom of Heaven, about the Crusades.
Right, I saw that one.
And the arrogance of the Europeans. In England, in fact, in my childhood, I saw it firsthand. The enmity between the Protestants and the Catholics, particularly in Northern Ireland. 2 kids from Northern Ireland were sent over to my hometown for a summer to get away from the fighting. This is in 72, I think it was.
Were they both Protestant, both Catholic?
Oh, that was a funny thing. Yeah, it was a Catholic girl, a Catholic boy and a Protestant girl, and they became good friends. My hometown, and I got invited to some things because I kind of became his best friend. I lived a block away. Tony McLarnon was his name, and anyway, but it still exists today. Now it's kind of simmered down, but remember the Irish Republican Army, the terrorists, and I mean, it was so ingrained in England, they treated all Catholics here well. I mean, they despised Italians. Why? Because they're papists, And that actually came to the United States. We had something called the Blaine Amendment. Almost became part of our Constitution. And it was particularly moved by the Speaker of the House to try to suppress the Catholics that were coming over to our Protestant nation. Because we didn't really become prominently, significantly Catholic until the big waves of immigration at the end of the 1800s and early 1900s.
Yeah. It's throughout history, the whole battle between, Catholics ruled up until about the 1600s, 1700s, when Protestantism came about, John Knox and Calvinism and Luther came out, and slowly it caught on.
Yep.
And then it grew pretty quickly. In England, it was really bad in England, and but it grew quickly. I guess when was it Henry VIII, King Henry? James. I'm sorry, it was James.
Yeah, James is a better example of Protestant Christianity than Henry VIII. He was a lecher.
Yeah. But even James, though, he wanted. I think the story is he wanted a divorce, so that's when he decided that he would leave, and start his own.
Well, I thought that's what King Henry VIII did. Started and made himself head of the church. King of England today is still the head of that.
Yeah, but no, I think that was James, and that's where that's where we get the King James Bible from. That's why we have the King James Bible. He decided he was going to write his own Bible instead of the Latin. He had Shakespeare and some other translated into. Boy, we are way off. I mean, we're into this. Hopefully,
it's your fault, Baker Mayfield.
Hopefully you all are enjoying our little discussions here, but let's get into some news. The big news of the week, I guess, was the shooter.
In Maine, yeah.
In Maine, yeah. Robert Card was his name. Here's what gets me. Okay, he was actually a shooting instructor. He taught people how to shoot, but he was crazy. This is what they try to not let you know, that he was hearing voices, and he had just been released from, I guess, an asylum or something.
Mental health facility.
Mental health. Thank you. For I'm stuck in old school, but anyway, and
the crazy farm,
right? Yeah, but he was hearing voices, and he decided to go on a shooting spree and kill a lot of people.
Yeah, I heard 16.
16 or 60?
16 dead so far,
and then
20 some injured that they know of.
Right.
Because they just found his body last night.
Yeah. Apparently he had a self-inflicted wound.
That's what I hear.
And, but he had people worried because, and they weren't all killed in the same place. It reminds me of, there was a shooting in Australia back in the turn of the century there. Biggest shooting they had. But what people don't often report, everybody thinks they call it a mass shooting, but the one in Australia, which I think it had like maybe in the teens or in the 20s, but he went to like 3 or 4 locations and shot multiple people in each location, and then would take off and go do it again. Kind of reminds me, do you remember the one, it was in Maryland, and then they would travel. It was an older man, and he had a boy with him.
Wasn't that the one shooting out of the trunk of his car?
Yeah, that one. Yeah. They killed multiple people, and it was sniper. He was shooting out of the trunk of his car.
They had a fake gas cap flip. That they rerouted that, and then he would flip that open, stick the barrel out. And the guy who was actually doing the shooting, he had his kid driving, sitting there in the driver's seat. And he would, and it would somewhat suppress the sound, and then off they go. And nobody found, that haunted, I think it was D.C. area.
Maryland. And it was scary.
And, for a long time.
Took him a long time.
Yep. And I want to say the places where the carnage happened were places that either the proprietor had dictated by law, it's a gun-free zone, or by statute. Nobody's allowed to carry any, self-defense. Arms. Firearms particularly. But this made a target-rich environment that he sought out. And
so what do the Democrats do? They want to
make more gun-free zones.
Yeah.
And, my thing is, when you take away somebody's liberty, their right of self-defense, you have a moral duty to compensate that with taking responsibility to protect them. Yeah, like if Secret Service is going to say, hey, we got the president here, but fine. Then I want to see a big, massive bunch of Secret Service here, all armed.
Right.
Because I want to feel safe.
Well, and usually you do.
Yeah.
I mean, in a president's case.
Exactly.
And see, this is the hypocrisy to me of the entertainment and media people. You can't go, you just try to go to KRMG, to KJRH.
Yeah, the media places.
Any of the channel 2, 6, 8, 23, any of those places in town, you try to go in there. Mm-hmm. It's not happening. Right. They've got the security. They've got bulletproof glass. You can't just go in there. All right. But our schools, they're somewhat secure, but they don't have, screen for the kids. They don't have, even D.C., you have to go through metal detectors and things like that to protect our Congress people and things like that. And we're always talking about our our children are our most precious gifts and all of that, but we don't really take care. Here's the other funny thing. You don't hear about mass killings in the black community, in the schools. Why? Because everybody's packing. You're just trying to shoot up. You may shoot one person and you're dead.
My grandpa said something similar to that. He says, you know why you don't see very many crimes happening in the RV parks in Florida where all the snowbirds go? Because they've all got shotguns in their RV. Yeah. My grandpa told me that, and he was an RVer, snowbird, and he said, "Man, I thought I was the only one doing it." And no, everybody packs a shotgun.
In the hood, you're not going to see.
And that's just it. They want a controlled environment where there's no unknown variables or as few as possible. I mean, even what happened in the beginning of the football season this year, high schools, we had some shootings.
Right.
2 or 3 places on the first Friday night. Yeah. And you think you're safe in there. Listen, a kid can tuck something right next to the chain link fence from the outside under the turf and then just reach out. You're not safe, folks, unless you've got the right to defend yourself.
Well, even this, just to me, a high school football game is one of the easiest targets in the world because all you have to do is wait outside till the game's finished.
Yeah.
Even if you can't sneak something in, you wait till everybody's flooding out.
Right
at the gates. Mm-hmm. You just wait, in a car or a truck till everybody's coming in. And can you imagine, like where there's a mass coming through one of the gates?
Oh, God, they can just spray and hit.
My goodness.
Every bullet take out 2 or 3.
Because it'll go through.
Yeah.
Through it, yeah. I mean, I'm not giving anybody any ideas. But I'm just thinking about it. It just it's crazy,
Yeah.
But
and they're not armed because they just went through metal detectors to get in.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, shoot me, I'm defenseless.
Gun-free zone.
Yeah.
Gun-free zone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
For cowards only.
Yeah. So, but of course, the Democrats are. I mean, here's the fact. Okay. Here's the real reason. I think we mentioned this before. The only reason Democrats want to take your gun is so they can take your guns.
Yeah.
And they want to take your guns so they can be in charge. Mm-hmm. I promise you, the ultimate goal of the Democrat Party is the goal of the Nazi Party, the goal of the Communist Party, to one day totally control you, totally rule over you, to where you have no ability to rise up and defend yourself against their ultimate plan. That's all it is. They do not want any insurrection against their coming plans for you. That's what it is. They are intent on evil. That's what it is. And I'm going to put it out there. I'm just going to tell you that's what they want to do. They want to take your ability to defend your liberty from you and your neighbors, okay? That's the only reason. A government that is set on liberty of the individual and ruling righteously has nothing to fear. And if they will set laws properly, law enforcement properly, they are not afraid. The people that are afraid are the ones that are trying to take away your right to defend yourself.
I want to say that effort globally got set back 3 weeks ago when a bunch of people in paragliders landed in Israel. Because back in the 80s, if you lived anywhere close to either the West Bank or Gaza, every adult, male particularly, in Israel had a machine gun, had an automatic rifle. Now, because of little regulations chipping away. They had to get a license. They had to apply for in order to have a gun. And the net result is hardly any civilians had guns when Hamas raided.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Right. The civilians did not fight back. They were unarmed. And especially, the music festival down there near Gaza, they didn't allow arms there. And so this is a problem.
Bunch of liberals.
Yes.
Yeah, bunch of liberals running a music festival.
I mean, I hate to say it, you religious right who's so pro-Israel, but Israel's government is rather leftist, okay? They just are.
Well, I think it was probably the government. Remember when they kicked Netanyahu out for a few years there?
Yeah.
And what was not the Likud, the party that came
Labor.
The Labor came in and they took control.
Perez and then Ehud Olmert.
Right, the ones who basically, their version of the Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were even further left, even further socialist.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Likud party, they call it the conservative party, but by our standards, they're to the left of the classic Democrats here. So, yeah, that's the problem. And I put up a meme showing all these paragliders coming. I said, some mornings you need an AR-15 to go hunting.
To go hunting.
Yeah, because what does Biden say? You don't need a machine gun and a 30 bullet magazine.
30 capacity.
Yeah, to go hunting. Well, depends what you're hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? On October 7th, if you were in Israel, you were seriously hunting.
Well,
because you were the hunted.
Yeah, it depends on. That's what I was going to say. If you're hunting or hunted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's where I'm getting. Remember the riots after Rodney King's the verdict against the cops?
Yeah,
they said,
LA.
no, this is not premeditated murder and attempted murder. And all of a sudden, South Central LA and the Koreans were not victimized because the shop owners, the Korean shops, they stood on top of their roofs with guns.
Right.
And Rush Limbaugh said, this set back gun control 30 years.
Yeah. Right.
Because sometimes you can't trust the government. Listen, you can never trust the cops to protect you. You call them, they file a report of the crime standing over your blood-spattered body.
Yeah.
They're not.
And they always have an excuse for why they didn't get there earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. They claim they're there to protect you. No. There aren't enough of them to protect us.
They're not. And with all of the new rules, and they're pretty much handcuffed. And they're shorthanded because the old guard of the police are retiring in mass.
Yeah.
And they're not able to get any. The new ones they're getting, half of them are more concerned about their sexual orientation and their freedom to be who they are, really. Yeah. And then what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. So yeah. Hey, the other big news, of course, we have a speaker.
Yes, we do.
We have a speaker at last. Thank God Almighty, a speaker at last. So, yeah, it's Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson.
Mm-hmm. I like your Babylon Bee take on it. Everybody's wondering who is he?
Exactly. His family is surprised.
His family that he's a congressman.
Yeah, his family is shocked to find out. Yeah. I've known about him a few years because I watch Fox Business a lot. I wake up every day to Fox, and Maria Bartiromo and some of the others have him on a lot. And he's a very intelligent. You'd never know he's from Louisiana because he has no drawl, no
That's true.
accent.
Yeah,
but he's a very, very smart guy.
He spent some time in the media too.
Did he?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they didn't go into detail on it, but he has done some media work.
Yeah, but he's a real sharp. In fact, the position that Kevin Hearn has now, that was his position before Kevin Hearn.
Right.
So he's a financial guy,
An attorney.
Yeah, an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny, I saw this morning that they're coming after him. In fact, there was a press conference when they had all the Congress people around him. They were all excited, and some reporter is going after him. And here's the clue on they're getting ready to attack you. When the reporter says, "What do you say to those?"
Oh God.
What do you say to those who say,
"Drive-by hit coming here"?
Yeah, you were, you were involved in the you were too slow in your response, or you had no response on the January 6th.
Yeah.
Insurrection. That's what it was. That you were agreed with, or you were involved in the January 6th insurrection or something like that, And there's this older, I don't know who it is, probably looked like the oldest member of Congress, this little old lady, and she said, "Oh, just shut up." This lady, this little old lady standing next to Mike Johnson, she says, "Oh, just shut up." And everybody around him just started yelling, and they said, "Next," and they just shut her right out of there, and went to the next question. And that's the perfect response. I mean, I think with him there now, I think the Congress has finally decided we're not playing your game anymore. Mm-hmm. I think they finally grew a pair, as they say, and. So I think, people may have a real problem with Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
And may not have liked the way the whole process played out and everything. But in the end, I think it really has worked out well.
It is. And Matt Gaetz, after the vote, he revealed the real problem why it took 3 weeks. It was Kevin McCarthy. He put poison pills in every vote. He first derailed Scalise. So he never got, because he got a bunch of his own supporters, people who have been his allies, to vote against him. They would vote for somebody else. They got the New Yorkers to all vote for, what's his name, Zeldin.
Right.
And then got other people to vote for McCarthy and other people, somebody else, enough so that Scalise could never get close to 217. And then they did it 3 times with Jordan. And it wasn't the, quote, 8, other than Ken Buck, the leftist who voted with the other 7,
right.
Freedom Caucus people. But the Freedom Caucus people always voted for whoever the nominee of the caucus was, or of the conference. So, and Matt Gaetz pointed out, somebody made a motion when they finally agreed on Emmer. They said, okay, while we're here, so we don't start this process over, if he doesn't get it, then we're putting up Mike Johnson. And they said, well, the rules don't allow it. And so the guy said, okay, I'm asking unanimous consent approval for it. One person objected, Kevin McCarthy. But he lost out. It happened so fast. McCarthy could not line up opposition. Mm. And so Matt Gaetz said, he went up to Scalise. He says, now you know who blocked you from becoming speaker. And it's obvious. Yeah. It's obvious. McCarthy couldn't get, and then the other big loser in this is all of the lobbyists who have IOUs from Kevin McCarthy that they can't collect anymore. Yeah, because it's a new game, folks.
Yeah,
a new game, and I'm just impressed. The man is, at least his creed is, I'm a Christian first and then a constitutionalist. And, Of course, if you listen to the media, he's a white nationalist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. One thing,
a Christian nationalist.
Yeah, Donald Trump now has someone to share the ammo with, receiving the ammo. He better wear body armor because they're going to come after him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's these. If you haven't awakened yet, I hope you will awaken soon to see how truly dirty the Democrat Party is.
Mm-hmm.
I make no excuses. I don't pull my punches. I call them the Democrats. All you need to do is put an N in the middle of that, and they're not Democrats. You put an N after the O, and it's Democrats, because they are about as filthy and evil as it comes. And anybody that, I'm not saying the rank and file, the people at home are not necessarily, that are voting for them, are not necessarily evil. I think they're deceived. But the leadership, anybody in office or running for office in the Democrat Party, I believe, are tainted and evil. And I will say that proudly and loudly. So I'm just going to, because you cannot be running for office and winning in that party and not know what corruption you're up against and involved in.
So the, quote, insurrection of January 6, 2021 is not the most recent insurrection. The most recent one was spearheaded by Rashid Tlaib in her decrying that the Israelis bombed a hospital and killed 500 people. That was followed by 300 people getting arrested occupying congressional office buildings. 300 people got arrested. Now let's see what their trials look like.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's an insurrection if we define it by what the January 6th committee defines.
Yeah, the January 6th people just went in and walked out.
Most of them were invited in.
Yeah, that's right, because we have the video of them being invited in.
Now, there were some criminals, but those criminals started fighting the police and bashing windows while Trump was still speaking a half mile away.
Right, right. So
the Trump supporters are still at the speech.
Right, yeah.
And the infiltrators and FBI informants, and, that's who was guilty.
Right. Speaking of the Israel thing, by the way, they found that hospital that was supposed to have been attacked was sitting on top of the largest terror base.
Okay.
It was underneath.
Watch out. I believe that's a different hospital. The largest hospital in Gaza is sitting on top of the Hamas terrorists.
Yeah, right.
But this hospital that got the bomb in the parking lot was an Armenian hospital.
Oh, okay. It was a different hospital.
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, I assumed what you did too, and I dug a little deeper and I found out.
Okay, but still, nevertheless, that it wasn't Israeli rockets that hit the hospital or in the parking lot.
Right.
It was their own.
Yeah, broken arrow. That's what they call it in the military when you have a missile misfires.
Right.
It's called a broken arrow.
So, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, there's so much misinformation, misinformation.
Yeah, and journalistic laziness.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
That's just. In fact, I quote of the day was this morning. I was watching ABC News on their Roku channel, and this woman's complaining to a former Israeli military guy about the denial of civil rights to people in Gaza because the internet's been cut off, keeping mothers from posting to social media. And what does this man have to say about this atrocity? And he said, well, the intention is not to harm any civilians, but, we are trying to shut off the ability of the enemy to communicate.
Right.
And if other people are inconvenienced, so be it. But this ABC anchor, that was the number one thing she had, is that grandma can't post pictures to Facebook.
You know, and what's so weird is, you know, at these riots, you've got now all of these American college students wearing these Palestinian checkered head coverings and all, and they have no idea. I mean, you know, you ask them. In fact, I don't know if you've seen some of the interviews where they're asking these protesters questions, and they have no idea. They don't even know they can't even answer the questions. They're just out there spewing stuff about Israel, genocide, and all of this that Israel's doing, and they ask them a question about the, you know, Hamas, and in fact, the one girl, she kept talking about Hamas.
Yeah.
You know? Well, you know, it was a black girl, you know. Well, I'm out here supporting Hamas, you know, and he said, who? Hamas, you know, and the reporter, she was trying hard to just keep her straight. It was a CNN reporter. It wasn't, you know, a Fox person, you know. It was just really funny. But these people are just making fools of themselves. Yeah. They know that. They just want to be involved because they think it's the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's the cool thing because it's anti-establishment. And again, I say the thing that's funny to me is, was it about 9 months ago, when the big news was Trump and Kanye were anti-Semitic? Mm-hmm. But when in reality, they weren't anti-Semitic at all. They were what would you call it? Oh, it's my phone. Excuse me.
No, it's
You're
fine.
wondering what that was.
Barely anybody. I would be sure it wasn't me.
No, they were anti the not media.
Well, it was a business group.
It's a business.
Particularly Adidas, he was really upset at.
Well, yeah, but it's the people, the control. There's a Jewish, I want to say mafia, but it's not really mafia. It's just, what do you call it, a group, a conglomerate.
Yeah.
The people who control syndicate.
Yeah.
A syndicate.
Corner of the market, much like the De Beers diamond people.
Right, exactly. And they control a certain segment of the media.
Yeah.
Even Christian, you know this, the Christian music industry has been controlled by
secular labels bought out the Christian labels.
Right. And secular music labels were controlled by Jewish ownership. Mm-hmm. And so that's what Kanye was talking about. Mm-hmm. He wasn't talking about the Jews in Israel, the true, what I call true Jews, Hasidim and Sephardic Jews and Orthodox Jews. He wasn't speaking about the religious Jews. He was speaking about people that claim Jewish heritage or whatever, but many of them who are Jew in name only, I would say. Kind of like Rhino.
Yeah, but isn't it a lot like you talk about your black privilege? When it's convenient, the Jews hide behind their nationality.
Yeah.
And claim the victim card.
Yeah.
And like, oh, no, you're not criticizing how I screwed you up. You're attacking Jews.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly right. So that's who Kanye was speaking against. He was speaking more against a certain industrial syndicate, not a people group.
Yeah, it was a form of racketeering that they were trying to do and really succeeded.
Right. And so because they control such a large segment of the media. Mm-hmm. But now, all of a sudden, we're seeing the true anti-Semitism, and nobody wants to speak out against that. In fact, I just saw a thing with Christian Anamapour. She's just out of control, and she was speaking with the lady, the first lady of Jordan. She was King
Abdullah's wife.
King Abdullah's wife. I forget her name. Princess Noor.
Oh, wait a minute. Is she still because she was married to King Hussein.
Who's King Hussein's wife? Yeah.
Okay.
Princess Noor.
Who's not the mother of King Abdullah because he had remarried Queen Noor.
Right.
Who's an American.
Right. Her. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she's interviewing Queen Noor.
Yeah.
and she's talking about that the American media, Western media is only presenting one side of this, the Israeli side, and not the other side, the Palestinian side. But Dave, here's what everybody's really missing in the whole picture. And let me paint this. It's a very simple picture, and I had to paint it for the Thai pros here in Tulsa.
Yeah, our favorite people.
Our favorite pizza. There's this one Muslim woman here, and I don't even know if she's really Muslim. I think she's a honky pretending to be a Muslim, or that's just wrong. I know, bad Eddie.
Oh, it happens.
But she's the lady that speaks out for the Muslims here all the time in Tulsa. Anyway, she got up and she was talking about the genocide of the Israelis against the racism. It was actually the racism of the Jews against the Palestinians. And I had to point out, I said, wait a minute, time out here. Racism? Are you serious? This is a family feud.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a family feud. Yeah. It goes back to two people, Isaac and Ishmael.
Yeah, two tribes.
But, well, not just tribes. They're brothers of the same father.
That's right. That's what.
I mean, they had the same dad. They just had two different moms.
Right. The 12 tribes were all brothers, too. The 12 tribes of Israel.
Right, but we're just talking about two boys.
Right.
With the same father, Ishmael and Isaac. I'm not Isaac. Was it Isaac? Yeah, it was Isaac, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Isaac and Ishmael.
Right. And before that, you had Jacob and Esau.
Right? Yeah, Jacob and Esau. Yeah. So the Arabs traced their lineage back to Ishmael, and the Jews to Isaac. And so Ishmael's people grew up and did their thing, and Isaac's became Jews. And then Ishmael, his people ended up intermingling with Ishmael's people. I'm sorry, Esau's. Esau's people joined the party over here with Ishmael, and Isaac's, they stayed pretty much in line. But that's all this is, the same people. I mean, it's like the Johnsons and the Robinsons in Harlem. These guys on this block, it's the Crips and the Bloods. You got the Crips and the Bloods, okay? And let's say the Crips are the Palestinians and the Bloods are the Jews, right? And they just don't like each other. They're fighting over turf. Yeah. Don't call it race. Don't make it something other than it is. And they're both fighting over turf. They're fighting over an area. And what I like to say, the people that I like to say, well, Jerusalem is, they've got their mosque there. The Muslims have their mosque. I said, well, do you know what's under the mosque? The Temple of Solomon. Yeah. Just 'cause it's like, where's your house? Well, okay, what if I tore it down and built my house on top of yours? Then whose place is it? Just because your house has been there for like 100 years, but 100 years ago, my house was under there. Yeah. Whose property is it really? So this is the type of thing that the kids today that are being fed all this stuff don't know. No, they don't. They don't know that.
That's the beauty of the Wailing Wall, was when they dug down and they saw stones. It's like, this was part of Solomon's temple. And it was proof that before there was Islam, there was Judaism on this spot. And the reason why the Jews particularly are fine with that mosque, the Dome of the Rock, because a devout Jew wouldn't dare stand over the same place where the Holy Holy was, because they believe they'd be struck dead. Right. Because anybody who's not ceremonially prepared and qualified if they're not the high priest, they would be struck dead.
Right.
So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
You know, I want to say the beauty of what Trump did with the Abraham Accords, entitling it to Abraham. He got them all agree. We are all descendants of Abraham. And it's like, let's celebrate what we have in common, not
That's
our
interesting.
differences.
That is interesting. That is true. They are all
because you'll always have, when you got a favorite kid, you'll always have the other siblings despise him. Why did Joseph end up being sold as a slave? Because his brothers were jealous of him, right? The same thing with Esau and Jacob. And I remember as a kid one day, my aunt comes over to talk to my dad. She had just found out that their dad gave the entire farm and homestead to the eldest son. And the youngest daughter was furious. And she wanted my dad to join her in just arguing, protesting, even filing a lawsuit. And my dad he stood there I was right in the room, and he said to her, he says, I didn't earn that farm. That's their farm. If they give it to, and he mentioned the bachelor who down the road, if they want to give it to him, that's theirs to give to whoever they want to. Mm-hmm. And he would not fight. And I just was never more proud of my dad than that. Because jealousy and envy are some of the worst things. And that's what's happening. And the reason why I think we have this uprising right now, it was to prevent the Abraham Accords from going into effect at the timeline, because Benjamin Netanyahu the month before had gone to the UN and announced, we're getting ready to build a pipeline that goes from Saudi Arabia through Israel and goes through the Mediterranean to Europe. And we're going to provide petroleum directly from Saudi Arabia to southern Europe. And Netanyahu was just thrilled because it was a joint venture he's going to get to do.
Right, with Saudi Arabia.
And the Gazans would not let that stand. And that's why I think we have this war now.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff. It's not just the Gazans.
Right.
That means there's other entities that don't want to see that happen.
I got one more thing to
like
tie
the Jordanians.
That. Right. Because the Arab Gulf, which the Persians like to call the Persian Gulf, is right now what Saudi Arabia is so dependent on, and it's so vulnerable to attack from Iran. But if they get this pipeline through, now all of a sudden oil will flow from Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Emirates and will not be endangered by Iran.
Yeah. Yep. See, there you go.
There you go.
There we go. You heard it right here on Fresh Black Coffee.
Yeah.
Hey, no, seriously, this is, but overall, just go back to the beginning, okay?
Yeah.
God promised the land to Abraham and to his people.
I got one more thing on this.
That's what you got to go back to.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing on this. The real reason why that the ABC News, what would Rush call her, anchorette, Infobabe, whatever, he was so sexist and didn't care. The reason she's mad about all the communications being shut down is all of their correspondents in Gaza who are going to give the Palestinian and Hamas spin, they can't get in contact with.
Right.
And so now Israel gets to set the narrative for the weekend.
Yep.
And you should have bought a satellite phone.
Yeah. And see, our media has gotten spoiled. And just in general, the world's gotten spoiled. And we have forgotten that the first basic premise of war, and that is war is war. Israel is now at war.
Yep.
They remember it's war.
Yep.
Oh, it's like the story. It's so funny that I had just talked about this, a couple of months ago, about a fair one.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
See, the Palestinians don't want a fair one.
No.
But the media and they're wanting to hold Israel to a fair one, but nobody wants to hold Palestine to a fair one, right? So, no, it doesn't work that way. And Israel, to their credit, they're saying, no, you never called a fair one, so we're not going to fight a fair one. And for Israel, if Israel capitulates and say, oh, okay, we'll hold the ceasefire because now you've asked for a ceasefire after you've launched rockets, killed people, taken hostages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to capitulate to your demands, to your requests. Yes. No. You have lost. You have lost. You have given in to what they have asked for. Israel needs to set its own course. Israel needs to say, no, you started it, now we will finish it, like we did in 67, like we did in 73, like we did and will continue to do. Every time you get up, every time, that's the only way you can deal with these people. If you try anything else, they will eventually overrun you, and you can't do it. You cannot give in. By the way, there's one more thing here. Okay. You'll love this. It kind of relates. After 2 rounds of high-level international talks in Copenhagen and in Jeddah, Ukraine is gathering partners for a rally for peace in Malta on October 28th and 29th.
Malta, that's in
the Mediterranean.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. National security advisors will be discussing President Zelensky's 10-point peace formula addressing everything. Get this. This is what's so good. This is so new agey. He will be addressing everything from child abductions to environmental damage. Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, took part in a similar summit in Saudi Arabia in August.
Yeah.
Russian foreign minister, Russia's foreign ministry called the gathering counterproductive, saying it has absolutely no perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, it wasn't our idea. We don't control it. Therefore, it's
well, no, but more than that, I mean, look, you're talking about a peace summit, right? To supposedly, I guess, deal with what are we going to do here with this war in Ukraine, right? Or anywhere else. And they're talking about child abductions and then environmental damage.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, you know where that's headed.
Oh, of course.
It's all the buzzwords, all the new age buzzwords.
It's the same reason why they had one of their press people being some transgender, a 6'3" guy wearing a
Wig?
a wig, a bob haircut, and eyeliner, and trying to pass himself off as a woman with a deep baritone voice. Oh, they tried.
Ukraine?
Ukraine did that a month ago. And I thought, this is a joke. And somehow they think it'll appeal to the West. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you just insulted my sense of decency here.
And the Russians are going, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Like Eddie Murphy did, ha, ha, I laugh at you.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, people's lives, millions of lives are at stake.
Yeah.
And they're pulling this crap. I mean, this is, come on, people.
Yeah.
Come on.
And by the way, the reason why I did a double take when you mentioned Malta, I thought of World War II where the Allies met in Yalta.
Oh, Yalta, yeah.
Which is in the Crimea. And I'm like, what is Ukraine doing trying to do something in Crimea? Because that's very much under Russian control.
The Maltese Falcon.
So just Yalta and Malta are 2 different places.
Yalta and Malta.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry.
Yalta went to Malta?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh man. I mean, this is like crazy. I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's the world is ready to explode, and which takes me a massive Devil Comet. Got an ice volcano and horns. It's getting ready. It's hurtling towards Earth.
Does it have a red pitchfork, though?
Well, yeah, really. It's hurtling towards Earth, and it's supposed to light up our skies. Now, my question is, a couple of things come to mind. Mm-hmm. What if it hit the Earth?
It's not even going anywhere close to a trajectory to the Earth. It's coming closer to the Earth, but it's like saying a tornado from Amarillo that's heading towards Wichita is coming towards Tulsa. Yeah, it will be nearer to Tulsa, but it is not in a trajectory to hit us or even come close.
Well, yet.
Yeah, I know.
No, the reason I say it's the devil, and I was thinking about, are you familiar with Wormwood?
Yeah, from Screwtape.
No, not that one. In Revelation.
Oh, that's right. It was something was named Wormwood. Yeah.
Yeah, there's supposed to be an asteroid or some. It's going to crash into the ocean.
That's right, and be toxic. It'll destroy.
Kill a third of the sea life.
That's true. So that is a pronounced judgment coming from the skies.
Right, and I just thought about it. The Devil Comet and his devil at Wormwood. Mm-hmm. C.S. Lewis, Wormwood. Anyway, I just tried to put the two together, maybe.
No, I
prophetically.
think that now all of a sudden I'm taking you more seriously. Because you remember that Sandra Bullock movie where she's trapped in outer space?
Yeah.
And remember, it's because of space debris.
Yeah, it hit her.
And so the crazy thing about it is when one thing up in space hits something else, now all of a sudden all bets are off because chain reaction. And everything's on new trajectories.
Right.
And in fact, that was part of our idea of last time we talked about serious threat of an asteroid is let's hit it with some kind of a missile to get it to perhaps bounce off. In fact, the movie Armageddon is let's go land on it and blow it up.
Nuclear bombs on it.
To disintegrate it, and then we might get hit with some of the debris, but not the whole mass.
Right.
So, it's interesting. And, we've been on Earth for how many eons, and it's only now that we have the technology to be aware of what could almost hit us, right? In fact, some people are saying perhaps that was part of the judgment when the flood of Noah came. And we see even if you go to Siberia, you'll see where some massive asteroids have hit the Earth. Massive. We saw, 20 years ago, where an asteroid hit Jupiter. They actually knew it was going to happen, and they saw the explosion on Jupiter through microscopes. And so it's real. We've seen it happen to our biggest planet in our solar system. So this is real.
No, I know.
We've observed it in our day, on other planets. So, yeah.
Wow. So anyway, the Devil Comet is coming. So anyway, here's a little something. Marie Osmond is doubling down in her refusal to leave her inheritance to her kids. She says self-worth cannot be bought. And she is joining Ashton Kutcher and Daniel Craig, James Bond himself, who echoed the belief of not leaving their children an inheritance. So it's a growing thing now among the wealthy, many of the wealthy and in entertainment, to not leave an inheritance to their kids, to make their kids earn it the hard way.
What about while they're here, how much assistance they give their kids with college?
That I don't know. I mean, that's probably, maybe, now, maybe this is a scare tactic. Mm-hmm. Or, see, that's the way I would do it. That the way you prepare it, that you tell them, I'm not giving you anything, you have to earn it. Yeah. And to make them then work towards it, and then as they prove themselves. They go to college, they get a job, they do this, and then you can have it down the line.
Yeah. I've been able to, over the years, interact with some of Sam Walton's family. A little bit more extended, nephews, very well off because they're enjoying the benefits of being associated. But in his book, Made in America, Sam wrote one book, and it's a masterpiece. I recommend it on so many levels for business, personal integrity, personal growth. In fact, I was going to church on the move at the time. Willie George bought a copy for everybody on his staff. That's how much he believed there was so much to learn from that. But at the end, he talked about that his kids won't get the opportunity that he had. And I think he realized that wealth is also somewhat of a hindrance. Remember John Paul Getty, former Tulsan. One of his kids, news came out he's kidnapped. Mm-hmm. Some say it was a ploy to fake a kidnapping to get some of Dad's money. And Dad paid the ransom, but then deducted it from his kid's inheritance.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't going to make, because they never did find out. Was he in on it, Was it a way to scam Dad?
But did they, cut his finger off or something? Was it his finger or his ear or something?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I seem to remember because they sent him as proof
Yeah.
that they actually had him there. But yeah, it's a tricky thing, the whole inheritance game, and especially for the wealthy. It would be tough. I think of the Kennedys, for example, John Kennedy and John and Carolyn. Mm-hmm. They had two kids, Carolyn.
Two that made it, yeah. They had miscarriage.
And so you have John, who Carolyn, apparently, I think she was just purely a trust fund. She grew up totally sheltered. She never, as far as I know, never had a job. Mm-hmm. I think she may have worked.
She did pass the bar.
Right, but I don't know. I don't know wherever she worked or practiced law or anything, married into wealth or whatever. Whereas John worked in New York City, rode a bike into town, hung out with people.
I think he worked for the DA's office.
Right, and he and Donald Trump apparently were very good friends.
Yeah.
And just two different people. And now you have Carolyn's son, who is kind of like Ronald Reagan's son, Ron Reagan, who what he turned out. That's what Carolyn's son is. Yeah. Reminds me of the things I've read and heard him saying. Yeah. And he now has attacked Bobby Jr.
Yeah.
He's the antithesis. He's the exact opposite, and he's attacked him, doesn't like him. And, he has become basically your modern day socialist Democrat.
Yeah. Spoiled brat, too.
Spoiled brat, exactly.
And that's where I'm going with this, because I don't understand, what the whole reasoning behind what Marie Osmond's doing. But
you don't understand it? Or you do?
I would like more information. If you don't want your kid turned into a spoiled brat, that's an honorable thing.
But there's other ways of doing it.
Well, what I'm saying is, as long as you've been consistent through their life.
Yeah, right.
Now, some things are unavoidable because when you are the child of somebody wealthy, they are a target that they didn't ask to be, such as the Getty kidnapping or Charles Lindbergh's kid being kidnapped and killed. They have to take extra effort to protect their kids because the kid didn't ask for the target on his back. So I get that. But you want to provide them as normal a life. A former Tulsan here, David Gates from Bread.
Oh, yeah. My favorite.
Yeah. He grew up in rural Washington. And
Washington County.
No, rural Washington. After his years
with bread.
Oh, yeah. Later in life, he lived.
You said he grew up.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. sorry,
He
his
ended up
kids.
moving.
His
His
kids grew up
Okay.
there. And his son married a gal that it wasn't until just before their wedding she found out her future father-in-law was the David Gates. That's how much he was able to live a normal life. But it's hard.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. I mean, Clarence Thomas, when Supreme Court's not in session, he and his wife, Vicky, get in an RV, and they'll just travel around the country. And they've probably been through Tulsa.
Yeah.
And we didn't know it. And
Right.
they like it that way.
Yeah,
And he
right.
says occasionally he'll be at an RV park, and somebody will say, yeah, you are that guy. I know. People, don't just tell me you look like him. You're Justice Thomas. you know?
Right,
And he says, can we have a peaceful visit? I'd love to have a beer with you tonight, but let's just make it just folks. You can talk about it after we pull up stakes and go. But Clarence will talk about that now, probably because he's done doing the RV stuff. I don't know. You know, he's up there, well into his 70s now. So, but yeah, that's what I'm getting at with Maria is as long as you haven't spoiled the kid rotten.
Right.
Because if you have, he's damaged. Then I don't know if we can release him back in the wild.
Well, yeah, a perfect example to me, okay? Release him into the wild.
Well, I think it's a good analogy, right?
Yeah. But, okay, I look at Donald Trump's kids, okay?
Yeah.
I don't see a spoiled rottenness in them.
Right.
Okay? You can look at them. They know how to carry themselves.
Kids.
Yeah, I mean, you see they were raised right. And you wonder, okay, how does somebody like that, but it's him. It's him to a T. Well, and if you look at Ivana, they divorced, but until she died, she still respected Donald. They just didn't get along.
Absolutely.
And he apparently, they worked a deal with, I know this sounds weird, but I think he was honorable in that he took care of her.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, and he spoke respectfully of her in front of the kids.
Right, exactly.
Because Ivanka was very tight with her mother.
Right. Well, and even what's her name? Marla May.
Yes.
Marla Maples.
Yeah, and their daughter,
Okay.
what's her name?
Yeah, I forget. She just got married here last year too. And when you look at the kids together, they were always all very close. He took care of all. They were all his precious children, and they're all close. They're all together. They take care of each other. They're with each. But see, this is when my son was at Union. My youngest played football. Mm-hmm. There were two brothers that played. They were stepbrothers, and they grew up in different households. They were only a couple of years, I think 2 years apart, but the parents had divorced, and the mom got pregnant by the new dad, and the other baby was born. So anyway, no, in fact, I'm sorry, they weren't even related. That's right. No, the one was his stepbrother from the new family.
Right. Not half brother, stepbrother.
Stepbrothers, but they were like a year apart or something. Anyway, but if one got hurt, the younger one, when he got hurt, the other brother, the stepbrother, was right over there, or if anybody messed with him. But that's how these kids were raised, that even though the parents didn't make it, they raised these kids to love one another. And they always spoke, as you said, respectfully, and no sense, in other words, no sense in bringing hatred, bitterness, or whatever into the situation that they had nothing to do with.
Right.
That's the secret.
Yeah.
If you will understand that this was our problem, not their problem, and we have to keep it that way to raise the best child that we can raise.
All right. It's time for me to come clean on this.
Okay.
Eddie, you and I had debated during the 2016 campaign. I was a Cruz supporter, right? Before that, I was actually Rand Paul. You didn't start out a Trump supporter. But eventually came down to those two, and then you and I had our famous social media debates and that.
Famous.
But, I wanted to believe the worst of Donald Trump. I did. I wanted to believe he was connected to the mafia. I even post on Facebook, nobody succeeds in New York without making a deal with organized crime. Did I have any proof for that? No, that was just a gratuitous assertion on my part. No evidence to back it up. But I wanted to believe that narrative. I wanted to believe his kids were spoiled brats. And to quote Dr. Everett Piper, Crow never tasted so good. He's a better man and a better father. Now, I'm not going to call him a good husband because he struck out.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was a lecher at a period in his life. I don't believe that about him now.
Right.
But anyway, so I just want to say that it's good to know I was wrong. And I'm ashamed to say I assumed the worst in a person. That is not honorable on my part. So you're here first. Okay.
All right.
Took me this long to come clean publicly on it.
Yeah. The problem with Donald Trump is that he's a man.
Yeah.
I have this friend. Actually, it's Booker T. Washington's great-granddaughter. She's one of my best friends. Yeah, very, very close. Amazing person, amazing speaker. She's never been married. She takes care of her mother, which is Booker T. Washington's granddaughter. But anyway, and she always has this saying, she says, "What do you expect? He's a man." And she I guess just learned through the years to, not over expect men to be different than men are, and then let them surprise you to the upside and not disappoint you to the downside. So if you will start out expecting men to be men and then judge them as they go, that's the best way to do it. That way you won't be overly disappointed. Now, you can still be disappointed, and there are lines that you cannot allow to be crossed. But it makes forgiveness easier, and at the same time allows you not to overvalue anyone.
It really fits very well with an axiom I've had of hurt comes from unmet expectations. And sometimes you're hurt and it's your own fault because you had no right to have an expectation that wasn't clearly delineated.
I'll tell you what a perfect illustration of this is, and it happens in the church. We raise pastors to too high of an expectation. And then when the pastor falls, people fall away.
Yeah.
If you don't look at a pastor as being more than a man with a calling, then you understand that there's no extra reason, or there's not any more reason he shouldn't fall than there is for the common man to fall. In fact, he's probably under a greater attack than the average man because of the station.
Perhaps,
yeah. Just think of it. I mean, the enemy, who's he going to go after?
Right.
You want to take out the general.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to take out the foot soldier. You want to go after the general. So, and who can you hurt the congregation with more by taking out somebody in the congregation or taking out the commander? You know what I mean? So I've always been of it doesn't. I don't follow a pastor, a priest. If I were a Jew, a rabbi, a teacher, So I've been through several, movements of the church, back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Not 60, I'm sorry, in the 70s. Well, in the 60s, it was the Catholic Church. In the 70s, the Charismatic Church and so forth. We've seen the faith preachers, the this preachers, the that preachers. And I've seen them come and go. I've seen many come, many fall, and so forth. But I've never, it's never bothered me. I've never been, it's never shaken my faith when I find out that so-and-so ran off with this, his secretary, or this one did this, or this one's teaching turned out to be this, or flaky, or blah, 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 or somebody, I met him and it turned out to be a real flake or a jerk or whatever. I just said, man, he's a jerk, Christian artists, or too, when we met these, certain art people that are these Christian artists selling, millions of records, and because I used to tour with these people and I get to meet them, and I realize, oh my goodness, I'll never do anything with them again or something. But it doesn't bother me, because I know that, again, they're just people, and so I've learned to just understand and pray for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. So who's just now discovering early Christian rock music? Joe Rogan. About 3 weeks ago, he had a podcast.
Are you serious?
And he's playing Larry Norman. I'm not
Joe
kidding
Rogan is playing
you.
Larry Norman.
Yes. And it's just so catchy. All through about a 2-hour conversation with this comedian. Why don't you look into Jesus? And he starts talking about, he says, this is the thing. I'm still looking for some authentic Christian leader.
Oh, my goodness.
Who isn't trying to bet all the women. He says, you get these real charismatic, really popular. He says, I see some good-looking TV preachers, and I'm like, oh, how many women have you had? And because he's that cynical.
Yeah.
He's just seen too much of the corruption, or maybe paid too much attention. But you and I both know Larry Norman has his baggage too, But the message, Joe is still looking for that, what C.S. Lewis called mere Christianity.
Right.
I really want to see the authentic thing.
Yeah.
Without all the exploitation thereof, So it's, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's funny how it works, because when I first got saved, I was rejected by my friends. I had these friends.
Even your gay friends.
Well, that too. My gay friend.
Yeah.
My best friend who's gay, yeah. But anyway, but the friends that I was hanging with, my doping buddies, started calling me the next day, the word got out quick. So I started hanging out with this new group of Jesus freaks. They were at a swimming pool, and we would hang out there, and a bunch of them were lifeguards. And, like one or two would sit up in the towers, and the other we'd sit around, and they'd be sharing the word and talking about Jesus, and I'm just sitting there listening and lapping it up. And then after their 15 minutes, they'd switch, and the other two would come down. Well, anyway, one of them came down. One of them turned out, and I started liking her. And, to the point where, I basically fell in love with this girl. And so this lasted, and then she ended up leaving and going to college, but we communicated, and then before she left, though, I told her that, I don't know what it was like, just to pray about it, but I was attracted to her, and, so anyway, we stayed in touch. Well, but then she liked this, she says, well, brother, the old brother.
Patronizing.
Well, thank you, but, I'm not feeling the same thing. Oh, well, thank you. But we stay in touch. So that Christmas she came home. And, but I will say, but we were good friends, still good. But she encouraged me, and she would give me these books to read. And I was trying to keep up with her.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to, my best to keep up with this girl. And she would give me these books, and I'm reading these books. And, I mean, just learning, like Lord of the Valleys, about how God is not the God when things are good. God is God when things are not good. And, I mean, just book after, just really, really, all kinds of books. I used to really read like crazy. Prison to Praise, Power and Praise, Answer to Praise, Merlin Carruthers. Did you ever read those books?
I'm familiar with the author.
Man, those are still today some of the best books you can get.
Yeah.
You can get them on, they're harder to find. You can probably get them on Amazon. If not, look them up. But
eBay's a good source too.
Yeah, but the main one, the first one, Power and Praise, is just should be a classic. They need to reprint. If not, I'm gonna ask for permission, because that book changed my life.
Yeah.
But anyway, so all this went on. So she comes back at Christmas, and she says, remember what you told me way back then, blah, blah. Well, I feel the same too now. So all of a sudden, so get this. So that goes on. So then she goes back to school. So we're corresponding. So in the meantime, I go up to visit her. And at that time, I, felt we sealed the deal. We were like meant, I'm in my head, I'm making plans.
Yep.
In my mind for us to get married. So I come back on like Sunday. I spent a whole week with these friends, and I'd go see her up at Texas Women's University when she got out of school, and then we'd stay out eating with her friends. And I went to this church that she went to, this little Baptist church out in the country, where I was the first and only black person to ever been in that church. And so anyway, so I come back to El Paso. But that Friday night, this friend of mine, or Thursday, this friend of mine, I was a deacon, and I hate to bore everybody with my story, but this is a crazy story. So this friend calls me, and said we would take friends leading the people that came forward to receive Jesus into a back room. We were prayer room counselors.
Yeah.
So my friend calls me and said, Eddie, I can't make it this Friday night. Would you mind taking the room? I said, yeah, okay, Dave, I'll do it. His name was David. So he said, yeah, I'll do it. So I said, so I do it. So I go up, and so this group, there were 3 people came forward, and they said, all right, those of you that came forward, look over, you see that guy over there? His name's Eddie. Raise your hand, Eddie. So I raised my hand. Okay, follow Eddie back into this room. Well, there were 3 people there. It was 3 girls. And so me and 2 other people, a couple of girls and me, we're going back. And so I'm telling them what it's like receiving Christ and how to help. And I look in the corner, and there's this girl sitting there crying, tears in her eyes and everything. And these other 2 girls. But this girl in the corner, for some reason, I'm looking at her, and she's got these tears in her eyes. And I'm feeling this attraction to her. And I'm freaking out. I'm saying, this is weird. This is the devil.
No.
Because, I just came back from seeing my girl up here in Denton at Texas Women's. And, I'm getting ready to think about marrying this other girl. And I'm, here's this Jezebel just shows up.
Oh, did you hear that?
and so I'm sitting there, and so in this, and so it's all over, with this thing, we pray and everything, and this girl comes up and, thank you very much, and takes my hand, and I'm doing this thing, yeah, you too, and then, oh, my cousin, I came with my cousin tonight. She brought me. Thank you so much. And I said, oh yeah, I know Sharon. Yeah. Da da da. And so, okay, now you know about our Sunday we have a Sunday evening service. We didn't have a Sunday morning. No, we did have Sunday. We had just started Sunday service. Yeah, okay, well, see, well, so it was the weirdest thing. I couldn't get this girl out of my mind. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what is going on? Because, I feel like all of a sudden I'm a gigolo.
Yeah,
because I'm in
got
love.
two of them.
I'm in love with this girl, and I'm meeting this girl, and all of a sudden,
More?
and I couldn't shake this girl. And so Sundays come along, and is she coming? Is she coming? Is she coming? And then, and so finally, and she came. She shows up Sunday, and I was thinking, oh, great. And so I finally went to my pastor. I said, Fred, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to,
Yeah, you led her to Christ, right?
I've got this, I've got, Jenny up here and Denton and now this new girl. And he just starts laughing. He says, oh, ha, ha, ha. You young people make it so hard. You want Jesus to just show up and tell you. Yeah. This is the one.
Yeah,
and he said that's not how it works.
No, nope, it doesn't.
You just have to. You go out and it'll work itself out. It'll manifest itself. Yep. But anyway, this went on for oh my goodness, it went on probably 6 months, and then.
You were in.
I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but
you were in agony.
Oh, I was in agony, but anyway, one of them won.
Yes.
One of the two won.
I've met her.
Yeah, you met one of them. Yeah, you met one of them. Yeah. But what's interesting, 40 some years later, 40 some years later. Oh, by the way, the two of them ended up becoming roommates at Texas Woman.
Oh my God!
And then we didn't see each other for over 40 years, and just recently we came back into contact, and my wife just saw the other one in Florida. She lives in the same town where Michael, our son Michael, with Florida Panthers. Wow. She lives in the same town in Fort Lauderdale. Can you believe it? How God works? But I have to say that girl, the first one, is still today. Oh, I just gave it away. Anyway, that girl is still one of the most important people in my being a Christian today.
Sure.
Because of the things she taught me. And because she was saved before me, but God used her to encourage me and challenge me in the books she gave me and encouraged me to read and everything to who I am today. Many of the things that she said and the books she had me read are things that are still implanted in me today. Neat. It's just amazing how God works. I mean, it's the weirdest thing.
And the other one who bore your children, I just heard you call her Jezebel.
This just stays between. I'm sure Alto's the only one that's out there. Oh, great. Now watch Alto call my wife. Knowing oh man. This will be the most popular, the most shared video of all of it. But, no, seriously though, but that's just how it was. And I tell you what's interesting too. I've got to say this because there are a lot of people from Jesus Chapel, which is the church that we were all group. It was more
one of the plants of Calvary Chapel.
Right, and more kind of Jesus freaks. And but we're all over the place now. But a lot of us stay in touch through Facebook, and it's so amazing how all of the people that are in touch are so like-minded still today without sharing. Like, so when the Israel thing comes up, we'll see a lot of Facebook posts from people wanting to take the Palestinian side, Christians that don't get it. But every last person from those days, and the Calvary Chapel people too that I know, they all think the same. It's funny how we're all so like-minded. We see things the same. That we understand the importance of. We don't know a lot of Jews. We're not defenders of necessarily Israel as the political Israel, but the Jewish nation, the Jewish state. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The biblical Israel, we are in solidarity with, and we're opposed to the evils of Islam and the nations trying to destroy.
The terrorists, especially.
Right, especially. And those that are trying to destroy Israel, the true Israel.
Right.
And so we all understand what's really at play behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we're all one. It's weird how we're all like-minded, even though we haven't seen each other in years. We live in different cities, different states. We're all over the place. Everyone is so one-minded, and we sit under different teachings. We're in different churches, but that one thing that was implanted in us 50 years ago.
Yeah, but I do believe you take on a lot of the character of the head of the movement. I think Chuck Smith's sensibilities were embedded in a lot of people just by being receptive to him.
That's probably true.
And his genuineness, I really believe that. You had mentioned about, the struggle that you dealt with. God, which one are you wanting me to have? I don't believe God chooses our spouse. I believe God holds a veto power. But the last time God chose a spouse, as soon as something went wrong, she blamed him. It was Adam and Eve. Since then.
You mean he blamed her?
Yeah, Adam said, the woman that you gave me, she gave me to eat, and then I ate.
Yeah.
I always wanted to blame somebody else. That's, human nature. But I think, first of all, God doesn't command us to get married. If you read, the epistles of Paul, he
prefers if you don't.
Yeah, he calls that his own personal thing.
If you have a gift, right.
But he said because of sin, and some of you need to.
Right.
Because of what you're battling with.
The flesh, right.
But really it's whom you choose within the guidance, so that God doesn't say here's a veto because of this thing. She's not a follower. My kids ask me, Dad, what do you believe about mixed marriages? You believe it's wrong? I said, yeah, it's wrong. But let me explain. Mixed marriage is a believer marrying a non-believer.
Right.
Because God refers to, and Paul tells us, and Peter, that you are a holy nation, speaking of all believers, a set-aside people. So we are all, whatever shade of beige we are one people called by Christ.
Right.
And marrying outside of that is a mixed marriage.
Yeah, it's funny because I took when I was in college and I broke up with this girlfriend I had in college. And she was in Germany. She was mixed like me. Mm-hmm. She was half German, half black. Mm-hmm. And I went took a marriage and family class because we broke up, and I was kind of shook up about everything and questioning. And so I took a marriage and family class, and the teacher was a former Baptist preacher. And he was dealing with all these different blockages to marriage and barriers and challenges. And he dealt with the interracial thing, but he spent like 5 minutes on it and then moved to these other things. And he spent like a whole week on the interfaith thing. Yeah. And so I said, "Can I come to see you?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." So I said, "I don't get it. What?" Because this was Lubbock, Texas, 1970. I'm thinking, or 71. And I'm thinking, the racial thing would be a big deal. And,
the Southern Baptists really held to it for a long time.
Yeah. And so I went to see him. I said, why did you only spend, and he said, oh, that's not a big deal. The interracial thing, he said, that's not a big deal. But interfaith, that's a big deal. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, oh, I know interracial thing. He said, if you come from that same faith belief, you'll stick it through, you'll work it out. He said, but the faith thing, that's what'll kill you, But he really opened my eyes, to that whole deal. He's the one who first, and he's the one who, I would say he was probably the first one to really get me kind of going on a spiritual thing, because the last day of class, he said, I've asked you questions all year now, I'll let you. And so somebody said, is it true that you got kicked out of your church? And yeah, that's true. And then, why did you get kicked out? And he started telling the story, and that his wife was sick, and she was real bad, bedridden and everything. And he was a Baptist pastor, and how some people had talked about healing. And so, he asked them to come over. That is you this time.
That one's me, yep.
Anyway, he asked them to come over, and they came over and started praying. And he said he's sitting there, he didn't believe in it. And all of a sudden, when he's sitting there in the living room, his wife walked out, and she'd been healed. And he couldn't believe it. It was a miracle. And after that, then he began to believe it.
Yeah.
And then he prayed for this gift and started speaking in tongues. They went through that, and they kicked him out of his church.
Yep.
He was the pastor. And I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm 20 years old, at 2021. I said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What did he, and I'm looking around, and a lot of these kids had heard about it. They knew. And I'm looking, what in the heck? What are these people talking about? I'd never heard of any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, it's called glossolalia.
Yeah.
Glossolalia.
Yeah.
I wonder how you spell that.
That's a seminary word.
Yeah. And so then he said, well, I can't tell you, I can't talk about it. I can't say anything.
Yeah.
But if you're interested, I happen to have some printouts here on my desk. If you're interested, take one as you leave. Yeah. It's so quiet. As I'm leaving, everybody's grabbing some of this, and I took it. And so it's funny because I remember going home and praying, that night, praying and just waiting for God to come over me or some angel to appear, And it took another year. It was a year later before I ever accepted the Lord. But I believe it was right then that started the process of, I had some different freaky things happen, which maybe I'll talk about one day. But anyway, that's how it happened. How did we get here?
Well, Kenneth Hagin referred to that experience that former pastor had. It's called the left foot of fellowship.
The left foot, the Baptist left foot,
He said
the right hand and the left foot.
Yeah, but see, Kenneth Hagin had always, as a Baptist minister, always preached about the healing power of God, because as a teenager, he had been divinely healed. He was born with a heart condition. He was bedridden for over a year. And all of a sudden, he just acted on his faith, and he just believed God and got healed.
You know what's so sad? Who, to me, I think is worse than the Baptists. In fact, Baptists, I think, have really mellowed on the subject.
In many ways, have.
But to me, the one that's worse is Dallas Theological Seminary. Seminary.
Is that Disciples of Christ?
I don't know what the DST is, or DTS. I don't know. I know I went to their Bible college there. I actually Dallas Bible College, which feeds into there. I actually took classes there. It's great. I mean, as far as a school academically, it's great, but they're so charismatic.
Yeah.
But, and what's interesting, Vadi Bachman, Vadi Bachman? Have you heard of him? Black preacher. Go check him out. He's very popular these days. He's written books, and he's got a bunch of YouTube stuff. He's very good, very, very intelligent guy, good speaker. He's very popular right now. But he's very much, anti-charismatic and very opinionated, which is sad to me because I think he has a lot of potential, a lot of reach, and a lot of wisdom. I mean, the guy really is smart. He speaks into a lot of things. But to me, anytime you get that dogmatic about things, and that anti-charismatic, it just kind of shuts you off from a whole segment of and they're so hyper dispensationalist that that whole dispensationalism that believes that the period of gifts, that it ended.
That's what
the apostolic age, that it ended there with the death of the apostles.
Right.
Who says? Why? How?
I just pulled up on Wikipedia. Dallas Theological is non-denominational, but they are most well known for pushing the theory of dispensationalism. Mm-hmm. That is kind of their hallmark. They came up with that all by themselves.
Oh, did they?
Well, they think they got it from God.
Right.
But yeah, I have a problem with that too. They believe that once we got the full canon of the Scripture, that all the gifts and all the other things, now it's just straight word. Right. And a lot of Baptists have adhered to that.
Right. Right. Yeah, they were very much aligned with Southern Baptist theology, but they've stuck to it more than the Baptists even. So the credit to the Baptists, at least, they've kind of loosened up and accepted. For example, my church, I couldn't believe one day, a pastor was talking about if you need healing, come forward, and he pulls out a vial of oil.
Good.
What? A Baptist preacher with oil, anointing people with oil.
They read the book of James.
I know, but I'm just thinking, this is weird, because I can't believe it. Praying for healing, expecting God and anointing people with oil.
See, right. In dispensationalism would just, no, that's not part of what they consider the hallmark of this church age.
They were dispensationalists. Yeah, they believed that was that age and that ended with the apostles.
So I've got a good Baptist friend. He was groomsman at my wedding. I mean, we just go way back to our childhood together. He called me one day, this is probably 30 years ago, and he sounded horrible. I'm here, Dave. And I said, Ken, what's up?
Do I need to exercise a demon?
I'm asking you to pray for me. I said, okay. Now, we would debate theology all the time. We have a very close friendship, and we challenge each other. Very Socratic, And I said, Ken, I will, So I said, look, let's just pray now. We don't need to talk about it. Let's pray. And we prayed. And I finished the prayer. And he says, amen. And I prayed a prayer of faith for God's healing, believing that what I say shall come to pass. He shall have whatsoever he saith. And I said, Ken, I got one question. I said, you go to a Baptist church. I said, why didn't you call the elders of the church? He said, Dave, when I want good teaching, I go to the Baptists. When I want healing, I go to the Pentecostals. That's for you, Ken.
You know what? That is so right on.
Yes.
Because you cannot go get better teaching and preaching than a Baptist. I'm convinced
they're known for that.
They know how to preach the Word of God.
They do the best Sunday school programs. The system. Because... And here's the problem. Sometimes we get too caught up in our systems of theology as bringing about our salvation. I have one guy, Pat, my friend who went to Japuza, helped publish Cornerstone magazine. And he, one of my first Christian friends. But he was starting a discussion, and another guy, had answered. He said, "What is the least minimum someone needs to believe to be a Christian?" And I said, "You just got to believe in Jesus. Jesus is our Savior." And some people started debating because they said, well, the Apostles' Creed. If you don't believe the Apostles' Creed. And I said, you don't need any more than what the thief at the cross needed. Either that or you're saying he didn't have salvation. That Jesus was leading him on. And, well, see, but that's part of the Apostles' Creed. I said, no. I said, the Apostles' Creed refers to acts that hadn't even happened. How could he believe the Apostles' Creed when it was unfinished at that point in history? Oh, wow, and I said, all you need is Jesus. And it was like I've told you before, Stuart McBurney, a theological student at Fullerton Seminary, or Fuller Seminary.
Fuller.
And had written to C.S. Lewis and said, how watered down can someone's Christianity be and still save him? C.S. Lewis wrote him back, yeah, you do, Mr. Big Barney. Christianity doesn't save anyone. Jesus does. It's not our system of theology. No. It's not an intellectual pursuit.
No, that's why.
It's a surrendering of our heart.
Yeah, and, you can't put God in a box because it's always weird how miracles happen to sometimes the most unlikely people, the most unlikely situation, sometimes the most undeserving. I mean, I know of people that you would think would be just sinners, undeserving, getting a visitation from the Lord and being healed. And somebody that you think the saintly person praying and seeking God and everybody's praying for them and they don't get a healing.
Yeah.
And you want to say, why, Lord?
Yeah.
And it's sometimes, and the only thing I ever come back to, this is why the wisdom of C.S. Lewis. He's not a tame lion.
Yeah, you go. That's it.
I always think of that. I always say he's not a tame lion. We don't control him. We cannot control God.
Yeah.
God is going to do what he's going to do. He knows why, and we can't know the infinite mind of God.
Yeah.
And we just have to trust and relax. And so that's the most we can do. Oh, by the way, one story I did forget, and I feel it's important. Democrat Representative Jamal Bowman.
Yeah.
That story.
Yeah, the former middle school principal.
Yeah, middle school.
There's some things you learn.
I'm sure you think they ever had any fire drills in his school?
Yeah, I think there are plenty of kids trying to get out of a history test.
And so for those who don't know, Representative Bowman pulled the fire alarm in the Capitol, and he was trying to avoid a vote. And it's basically, well, they said now it's a misdemeanor. I thought it was a little worse than that, but anyway,
I think it's an insurrection. Hey, everybody had to clear the building just like January 6th.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I would think it would be worse than that, but they made it a misdemeanor. In any event, they found him guilty of a misdemeanor. He tried to lie. Of course, he says he wasn't lying, but he was fined $1,000 and put on probation.
Did you see the video that came out last night? We always saw the still shot.
Right, from the side.
Right. They showed the video. First, he went over to the door where there were these signs, emergency exit only,
Right.
alarms will
Right.
sound. He tore both of those signs down, and then he pulled the lever. Live video of it. Yeah.
They need to arrest him.
He was just confused and late for a vote, Eddie.
Yeah. Now, here's my deal. Imagine had it been a Republican.
Yeah.
It would have been worse. They'd have wanted him expelled.
Yeah. The horns guy would have got another 5 years for it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this shows us where we're at in our political arena today. It's sad. I mean, it's really sad, and for the Democrats to sit there and just put up with this or defend it, not just put up with it, but defend it. What this tells me is that the Republicans need to do everything they can to defend our congressman from New York.
Yeah. Yes.
And sadly,
hold him to the Biden standard of honesty.
And sadly, though, I think that there are Republicans that are trying to help throw him overboard.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Because they're reputable people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what's sad.
Yep.
And if you look at what he's done in office, he's been true to everything he said he went there for.
Oh, you can't have that.
You can, you can go in and do every dirty, nasty, illegal thing to our people, to your reps.
Yeah.
I mean, to your public.
Yeah.
The constituents.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But don't.
Yeah, if you don't roll over and do what the lobbyists ask you to do, we got to get rid of you.
Right. Yeah. Don't lie to the people getting in. I mean, you know, and I'll be honest, I don't think most of the people who voted him in cared. Mm-hmm. Really. I really don't think they care.
Yeah. They
just wanted to get a Republican in there and wanted to get him. I mean, honestly, they should leave it to the people. Just let him. He's coming up here next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a 2-year.
It's
term.
a 2-year deal. He's almost up. Just let him run again.
It's not like Senator Blumenthal who gets 6 years.
Yeah, but see, but I believe the problem is they're afraid that he might win again. Mm-hmm. So they want to make sure that he doesn't get a chance to run again.
Well, it isn't working with Trump because all the indictments in the world have not slowed down Trump's campaign.
That's why they're afraid. That's why they're afraid.
I've got a lighthearted story I want to
Okay, we'll finish on that.
All right. So 5 years ago, I decided to write a little story, just kind of get a discussion going. The idea of we've got Interstate 40, which central Oklahoma goes across, and then the United States interstate system skips to Interstate 70, going through upper part of Kansas. And for us going east-west, we either got to go south or we got to go north. And I was like, wait a minute, where's Interstate 50 and 60? So I wrote a deal about a proposed Interstate 50 going from Las Vegas that would go all the way to Atlanta or Birmingham, actually, and showed all the ways it would help. And by God, that thing went viral in the most weird way because little cities along that proposed route all of a sudden latched on. This could happen. We could have interstate, because of what it does for commerce, right?
Right.
Yeah, and well, this week in Pryor, they're having a public forum on changing what was called US 412 into an interstate class. Now, it wouldn't be called Interstate 50 yet, but it would tie in because over in Branson, I think a lot of the Walmart money is involved in this. Highway 71, going from Kansas City all the way down to Fort Smith, got changed to interstate class. And Walmart trucking very much benefits from that. The other designation is it gets federal money for the maintenance and upkeep of it because now it's part of our federal interstate system. So what I'm saying is at least the eastern half of Oklahoma would greatly benefit if the federal government would adopt seeing the need, the interstate need for that, especially with Branson, not Branson, Bentonville, I'm sorry, Bentonville, with the trucking, the world's biggest retailer. So Anyway, I just thought that was interesting that, we started talk on something, and guess who's behind it right now and heading up the forum is former U.S. Senator Jim Inhofe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there's a few other people behind it, but Walmart's behind it.
So where would 50 begin? In California?
Right. Actually, the most difficult piece of it would be from Las Vegas to Bakersfield. California.
Because it's going through mountains again.
The Yosemite. Yeah. And that's a tough one because they drop off. That's why we have Death Valley.
Right.
It drops off from high heights. But California, desperately. They only have 2 interstates. Yeah. You go way up north of Sacramento to what is that? By Reno. What's that lake? Tahoe. Or you got to go south of
South has 10.
Bernardino.
Yeah, it's got 10.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go south of Bernardino to get around the south side of the mountains.
Right.
So it would be huge, and that would probably be the ideal candidate for Elon Musk to roll out his tunnel company. He's actually working on right now a proposal to run tunnels under L.A. for express, because you know how bad L.A.'s traffic is. Right. It's nuts. But I think that would be a great thing. But from Las Vegas, you would go basically by Four Corners and Telluride, Durango, and then kind of weave along. You stay north of Albuquerque, but almost by Pueblo, and you just follow along, and then you come down through Guymon and pick up at Blackwell there, south of, on the south side of our Kansas border, because it's actually Enid, continues further. So you go from Enid, continue along northern Oklahoma. But then, from the other side.
Would it come through here?
It does. Comes right through Tulsa. 412.
Because you would need the 44. Because right now we got 44 that runs up to St. Louis.
But this is the Cimarron Turnpike, as we know, to get to Stillwater. But then 412 takes us to Siloam Springs, where it ties in at Bentonville.
Right. But what I'm saying is, so the 44 would probably tie into...
It wouldn't actually tie in.
It would cross it, right.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Here in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, literally...
44 actually dies here.
No.
How far does 44 go?
It actually goes down to Wichita Falls, Texas. Goes through Lawton.
No, I'm talking about going north.
Oh, going north, it goes to St. Louis.
Oh, 44 goes all the way. That's right.
Yeah, and I think it gets renumbered to go to Chicago, because the old Route 66 went from Chicago to L.A., and much of it is 44. But the cool thing is, to go from Bentonville, then the ideal thing would be to get it to come up the south side of Branson, because Branson's not served well by highway system. But then from there, you go to Poplar Bluff and Cape Girardeau, and then come back down through northern Mississippi. So I think...
Wow, that's a great idea.
Yeah, but it's expensive. I think what you do is you take already 4-lane divided highway and you adopt it in. The downside, I mean, you've got some expensive interchanges, because, you go out here by... some of these roads on 412, you got dangerous intersections. Well, to be interstate class, you can't have intersections. You can't have stoplights. Right. So you got to build bridges over intersections. Right. And you could argue that for safety, going out here, east of Tulsa on 412, that is some dangerous intersections.
Well, maybe they'll call it the Von Risingham Expressway.
I just want to see it built. But the funny thing is, I just threw that out there, and all of a sudden I've seen all the hits on it, and it's little community newspapers picking it up and citing Sooner Politics as the authoritative source. So now they can say Jim Inhofe.
Or it'll be the Sooner Expressway.
There you go.
That's a better way.
There you go.
Yeah. But of course, it'll probably end up being the Inhofe.
Yeah, Memorial Highway. There you go.
Memorial Highway. Yeah, that's right.
Hey, I don't care. I just want good roads.
No, I know.
Get us
I hear
somewhere.
you. That'd be good. That'd be really good to go to California on, though. Yeah.
Oh, Las Vegas to Bakersfield would be huge. Huge.
Yeah.
But I do think that would be the best argument for Elon's tunnel system, because to get up, at least to get the grade where I don't think they like to go more than a 7% grade, 7 degrees up, because anyway. But I think it'd be cool.
Man, I'm yawning here.
So that's a little end note to highlight another good show.
Cool, as they say in Germany. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
And by the way, welcome to winter. Those of you in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
watch it. It feels like it, and
Feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Could get some white stuff. Time to get the long sleeves out. There you go. Yep.
All right, everybody. I think that does it. Hey, look forward to seeing you next week.
All right.
Take care and have a great week. Oh, wrong one. We're going to start another whole one. I don't think that's the right one either, is it?
Let's play all of them at once. Get that one. Yeah. Climbing up that hill.
Wow. No. Oh, no. Yeah, we're done.